Hello, everybody. This is Empowering Democracy, and I'm your host, Joe Firestone. Tonight we have another Dump the Corruption show, and we're going to cover three subjects: the change from hard corruption to soft corruption in New Jersey, which is related to the candidacy for the Senate of Tammy Murphy, who is the governor's wife. Second, we're also going to cover the threatened campaign by the American Israel Political Action Committee. What APAC plans to do is spend $100 million to try to get rid of especially the original squad members. Talk about that. And then finally, there's a little Harvard scandal going on. There was an article commissioned by the Law Review at Harvard. And after commissioning the article and getting it, they turned it down and tried to bury it, of course. But the article was published by The Nation instead. And we'll go over a news article on that from Common Dreams. So, there are a couple of folks here. They haven't said hello yet. Excuse me for a minute while I share this post on Facebook. Okay. Okay, let's begin with the transition from hard corruption to soft corruption in New Jersey. No one would ever anticipate that in New Jersey, right? So, this piece appeared in the American Prospect, the publication that has been revitalized by Dave Dayen since his taking over the editorship. Title of this article is Trading Hard Corruption for Soft Corruption. New Jersey's U.S. Senate Democratic primary, likely the end of the road for twice indicted Robert Menendez, will be shaped by similarly distasteful machine politics. This is by David Dayen, and the piece was written November 22nd, 2023. There is New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy and his wife, Tammy Murphy, as they arrive for a state dinner with President Joe Biden and French President Emmanuel Macron at the White House on December 1st, 2022. Tammy Murphy is running for the New Jersey seat soon to be vacated by Menendez, despite her never having held political office before. Now, why would anybody think that she's qualified for political office? Well, we shall see. The field is now largely set for next year's Democratic Senate primary in New Jersey. While twice indicted incumbent Democratic Senator Robert Menendez hasn't yet decided on a run, he is so widely disliked in the state after the federal charges laying out his alleged pay-for-play service on behalf of the Egyptian government. His favorability rating is now at a shockingly low 6%, and only 9% even among Democrats, that he is essentially a non-factor in next June's primary. Two high-profile Democratic challengers, Congressman Andy Kim and Tammy Murphy, the wife of Governor Phil Murphy, have entered the primary. Dave says there are others in the race, but only Kim and Murphy are likely to have the money and organization for a serious run. So the assumption here, of course, is that Christina Khalil, the Green Party candidate for the Senate, will likely not have the money and organization for a serious run. But I've been exchanging messages with her occasionally since I interviewed her here, and she thinks she's putting together quite a volunteer organization. So it remains to be seen whether she can give the people with the money a run for their money. These candidates will have to prove to voters that they can restore some measure of ethics and integrity to that Senate seat while presenting an agenda for economic prosperity, low cost for necessities like energy and healthcare, and a foreign policy that speaks to our highest values. I thought that was an interesting framing that David gave it there. When I read the framing, I had to think, is he joking? Does he really think that's what they're going to do? Or more accurately, oh, there he is. Or more accurately, they have to convince 5 men to give them a favorable ballot position. That's what's going on. Beneath the dramatic, operatic corruption outlined in the recent indictment of Senator Menendez lies what has been described as the soft corruption of machine politics in New Jersey, where the whims of unelected county party chairs almost always dictate who gets into office and what policies get enacted. Many of those chairs have already sprung into action on behalf of Murphy, who is, wait for it, a former Goldman Sachs banker. That's her qualification for senator. She's a former banker. Remember the last former Goldman Sachs banker who was elected as, I think he was elected governor of New Jersey. But he either went to jail or he narrowly avoided jail. Many of those chairs have already sprung into action on behalf of Murphy, a former Goldman Sachs banker who has never held public office and voted in Republican primaries. As recently as 2014, while her husband was Barack Obama's appointed ambassador to Germany. Tammy Murphy, I misspoke there. I called her Tammany Murphy. But Tammy Murphy announced her candidacy 1 week ago. The same day, the Democratic chair in Hudson County, Menendez's home base, endorsed Murphy chairs in Bergen, Camden, Middlesex, Passaic, Somerset, and Essex counties have followed suit. George Norcross, a Democratic power broker in southern New Jersey, whose role has diminished in recent years, nevertheless indicated his support for Murphy as well in a closed-door meeting this month, which could bring even more South Jersey counties along, even though that is Andy Kim's home base. These endorsements from chairs of the four largest counties in the state by population and 6 of the top 9 were couched in identitarian terms, hailing the candidate who would be the first female senator in New Jersey's history. In reality, they have the effect of putting a fat thumb on the scale for Murphy by almost certainly giving her access to the, quote, county line. What's that? The county line primary ballot in New Jersey, the only one of its kind in the nation, groups candidates together who are endorsed by the county parties, rather than organizing all candidates vying for a particular seat, but together. So in other words, instead of having a ballot where you compare, you've got this one from the Democratic Party, this one from the Republican Party, this one from the Green Party, this one from the Libertarian Party, so on, and they're all lined up, okay, in one place, and you get to check one of them or to fill in the box for one of them. In New Jersey, the ballot is organized by candidates who are endorsed by the county parties for all the offices. In other words, candidate A for X office, candidate B for Y office, candidate C for Z office. They're all grouped together. And then you have to figure out which one or more of them you want to vote for, as opposed to some other grouping, some other line. All other candidates in the various races are set off in largely empty columns, distanced physically from their competitors, sent to a place sometimes nicknamed, quote, ballot Siberia, unquote. Yeah. This ballot placement and the way in which Democratic county parties in New Jersey have conditioned primary voters to only select endorsed candidates has a near perfect record. According to an updated analysis from Julia Sass-Rubin, an associate dean of the Edward J. Blaustein School of Planning and Public Policy at Rutgers University, incumbent state legislative candidates who receive the county line in contested primaries have won 205 out of 208 primaries in the past 20 years. So, to be very clear about this, hold on, wait for it for a while. That is a winning percentage of 98.6%. If you get the county line, the probability of your winning is 98.6%, just off the historical record of what has happened over the last 20 years. In the 19 races where the incumbent was denied the county line, in at least one county in which they were running, their record is 9 wins and 10 losses. So even if you're the incumbent, it's more likely than not that you will lose if you don't get the county line. So how did people get the county line endorsement? Well, we will go into that. Looking at 45 congressional and senatorial primaries, where different candidates won the county line in particular counties, Rubin, Julia Sass Rubin, that is, the professor, well, she's an associate dean of the Blaustein School, I guess. She's also a professor, I'm sure. She could calculate the real impact of the ballot placement. Quote, the average margin in performance for those 45 counties between being on the county line and having their opponent on the county line was 38 percentage points, Rubin writes. The tool is a tool for power by the county chairs, who use the county line to dictate policies favorable to their interests. The county chairs become the constituents of New Jersey elected officials, as much as, if not more than, the voters. Clearly, much more than the voters, because the voters are not able to get the people they favor into office 98.6% of the time. Quote, it really is 5 men in a room, unquote, Rubin said in an interview with the Prospect. Quote again, when you have this kind of power among the chairs, the situation is corrupt through and through. So how would you dump the corruption, okay, in a situation like this? Well, what you would have to do is to dump the corruption by voting against everybody who gets the county line endorsement. It's really quite simple. If somebody's out there in ballot Siberia, you vote for them. Ironically, Menendez, but you have to make an exception, okay, in Menendez's case, because he's probably not going to get the county line this year. Ironically, Menendez has been the loudest voice about this as it relates to the Senate primary. He has called Tammy Murphy's run and the county chair's actions a, quote, blatant maneuver at disenfranchisement. Of course, it's one he benefited from until this year. And unless a federal lawsuit challenging the ballot line accelerates, it may be how Menendez's successor is chosen. Yeah, through this county line system. In 1996, Rush Holt decided to step away from the plasma physics laboratory at Princeton University and make a go at a run for Congress. Holt, whose father was once a U.S. Senator from West Virginia, sought the endorsements of the 5 county Democratic parties in his district. Some of those endorsements were decided at a convention of elected committee members, 2 from each precinct, who met and deliberated on the candidates. In 2 of the 5 counties, the county chair effectively decided who got the endorsement, regardless of the committee's viewpoint. Quote, in those 2 counties, I shared the line with Lyndon LaRouche, who was running for president at the time, unquote, Holt told me. Quote again, I didn't fare too well in the primary. If you don't have the column or the line, they can relegate you to a distant part of the ballot, unquote. Holt got the county line endorsements in his next try in 1998 and won the seat, holding it for 8 terms. But when he ran for the Senate in 2014 in a primary against Cory Booker, he went to each chair asking for their support. While some party chairs simply asked Holt about the issues, in many cases, he said, it was, quote, the most old-fashioned thing that you can imagine, truly a smoke-filled room with one person, unquote. The prize for this county chair persuasion campaign is significant. County line primary ballots, which are used in 19 of the state's 21 counties, are confusing to look at. Some would say deliberately so. In a presidential year like 2020 or 2024, they have the presidential candidate at the top and all other races on the ballot, Senate, House, county clerk, freeholders, committee members below them. Statewide officials and legislative races in New Jersey come up in odd numbered years. Only the endorsed ballot line is full. The others have one or a handful of names in them. Okay, the design makes the county line easy to locate. It's usually in the first or second position to the left, and it's the only one that's full of candidates. For the challengers, it's hard to even discern what office they're running for. This visual suggests to the electorate who to vote for. This is figure 2 in Monmouth County, and you notice that the ballot line to the left is filled with candidates, and the other ballot lines just have a few or one candidate. So you immediately know who the county heads have endorsed. The county parties then offer their endorsed candidates as a slate in campaign material. Quote, all the counties say vote line A or row E, Rubin said. Quote again, the voters are just so trained. The ballot is reinforced by the messaging, unquote. Technically speaking, a county convention process is supposed to determine who receives the county line. In Bergen County, for example, an endorsement convention is in its bylaws and has been held for nearly 50 years. But in reality, quote, the chair has the power to give the line, unquote, Rubin said. Sometimes the convention's votes for endorsements are not by secret ballot, and the chair can retaliate against those who vote contrary to his or her interests. Chairs determine which committee members get on the county line, therefore have significant sway in who gets elected. Many chairs also hold legislative office and also the municipal office and can grant or revoke political favors. Finally, under state law, a county chair can overrule the decisions of the endorsement convention in nearly all cases. In 2021, Middlesex County Democratic Chair Kevin McCabe simply nullified the endorsements for mayor and city council, Kay and Edison, and awarded county lines to his preferred candidates. The combined effect of the odd-looking ballot, the messaging from county parties, and voter tradition is remarkable. Rubin collected a number of examples for her paper. She found that no state legislative incumbent who was on the county line in every county in their district has lost a primary race in New Jersey since 2009. In a Republican primary in the 3rd Congressional District, a split endorsement between two candidates demonstrated the effect of the county line. Kate Gibbs received the line in Burlington County, while David Richter had the line for Ocean County. Gibbs won Burlington 57 to 43. Richter took Ocean County 78 to 22. That's a difference of 35 points. In 2020, Cory Booker tried to get his friend, Bridget Callahan Harrison, elected to Congress by taking himself off the county line, okay, in Atlantic County, and moving to a separate line with just Harrison to try to increase her vote share. Atlantic County leaders were so used to just ticking off the county line that almost 20 of them didn't vote for Booker or anyone else for the U.S. Senate. An even more pernicious problem that can arise is overvotes. Sometimes county clerks put all challenges to an endorsed county line on the same line elsewhere on the ballot. Conditioned to just voting for everyone on the line, voters subsequently vote for multiple challenges, meaning they vote for two people running for the same office. Those voters then must get thrown out. We saw this kind of induced ballot spoliation in a 2020 U.S. House race. In Mercer County in 2020, Christine Conforti and Stephanie Schmid were both put on the county line because both challenges received 40% at the endorsement convention. As a result, 32.4% of the voters chose both Conforti and Schmid in the race. All those votes had to be discarded. Holt said that in his time in Congress, the party bosses were more interested in state and local politics. Quote, "I was pleased that I was able to stay away from it," he said. Quote, "The county executives, the freeholders, the governors, they could shift a lot of graft. The chairs were more interested in that sort of thing," unquote. But the particular circumstances of this Senate primary cuts against Holt's expectation of county chairs being hands-off about federal races. Tammy Murphy is the governor's wife, and while she has taken a policy portfolio during her husband's time in office, the views of the county party chairs are almost certainly not too divorced from what they think Governor Murphy can do for them if they back his wife for Senate. During his first gubernatorial run, Murphy secured the county lines for most of northern New Jersey well before the endorsement conventions, after making large donations to county parties. His two main challengers then dropped out. This is common in New Jersey, which has incredibly low percentages of contested primaries, as candidates believe they cannot win if they don't secure the county line. Already the impact of Tammy Murphy's connections to the governor are apparent. Days after her announcement, a $100,000 radio ad hit New Jersey airwaves, paid for by the State Department of Human Services and using Tammy Murphy's voice to support the health of mothers, maternal health. Her signature issue. This led to cries of unfair use of government dollars for a political candidate. The ads were subsequently canceled. On the other side, Kim, who jumped into the Senate race right after the Menendez indictment and is running on an anti-corruption message, gave an interview in September before the Menendez news came out where he said that he favored reforming the county line. Quote, "My interest when it comes to good governance doesn't just stop at the federal level," unquote, Kim said to the New Jersey Globe. Quote, "I'm a believer that democracy is something that ultimately relies with the citizens," unquote. Governor Murphy, for his part, has defended the county line process. So, in choosing between someone tied to all the trappings of power in New Jersey, someone who has threatened the spoil system and has served county chairs well for decades, it's not hard to understand who will get the county lines and be favored to win. Camden and Hudson counties have a top down structure, so their party chair's endorsement of Murphy almost certainly puts her on those county lines. Bergen and Middlesex counties theoretically have secret ballot endorsing conventions, but with the preferences of those party chairs known, it's fairly likely that those county lines will go to Murphy too. Some said Hudson and Middlesex counties, all of whose chairs have endorsed Phil Murphy, have high concentrations of Asian American Pacific Islander votes who would be critical to Kim, who is Korean American and who would become New Jersey's first senator of AAPI descent if elected. Murphy's business Republican past, lack of electoral experience, service as a high dollar fundraiser. She leads a nonprofit that promotes Governor Murphy's agenda with support from undisclosed donors. And relationship to the governor have triggered skepticism about her seeming coronation. Quote, if her name was Tammy Johnson, we would not be having this conversation. It is because Tammy Murphy is married to the governor, unquote, read a letter from the Fair Vote Alliance, a progressive organization in the state. Adam Green, co-founder of the Progressive Change Campaign Committee, which has endorsed Kim, said in a statement that, quote, but the nepotism isn't the solution to corruption. I think I agree. I think it is corruption. Andy Kim represents a new generation of progressive leadership, independent, unbought, and able to fight for families like his because he is not drowning in the trappings of establishment power. Green was once the communications director for the New Jersey Democratic Party, and his view appears to fit with some of the early polling in the race. An internal Kim poll conducted last week showed Kim up 40% to 21% for Murphy, with Senator Menendez trailing badly at 5%. Kim is, quote, well liked, unquote, Holt told me. Quote, people see him as an earnest politician, unquote. But Rubin, who has researched New Jersey politics for years and written about it at the Prospect, said that poll cannot be used as a guide. The public polling assumes an actual contest, she said. Indeed, the quick endorsements for Murphy from Kim's colleagues in the House, something of a tell. Representatives Josh Gottheimer and Mikey Sherrill both endorsed Tammy Murphy. They're both expected to run for governor in 2025, and aligning with the endorsements of the party chairs may make it more likely for them to get county lines and other machine assistants in that gubernatorial election. Representative Bill Pascrell, Frank Pallone, Donald Norcross, and Donald Payne have also endorsed Tammy Murphy. The way in which county chair endorsements beget other endorsements, politicians in the state want to curry favor with the county chair, suggests that elections in New Jersey aren't quite democratic as much as they are payments of tribute to party bosses. Quote, there are a lot of machine politics left. We are the last true bastion, unquote, said Rubin. The last true bastion is right. The Fair Vote Alliance has called the county line undemocratic, quote unquote, quote, non-competitive and unfair, and asked county clerks to give no candidate preferential treatment on the ballot, appealing to county clerks' sensibilities is not likely to be successful, but a federal lawsuit is lurking in the background. after the mass ballot spoliation in the 2020 U.S. House race. Christine Conforti filed a complaint in U.S. District Court against three county clerks, arguing that the county line arbitrarily undermines the integrity of New Jersey's elections and is unconstitutional. Making it a federal case was critical, Rubin noted, because the state and the municipal judges are selected by and have ties to the state political machine. Other candidates denied the county line in their races, came in on Conforti's side, and more county clerks moved to intervene in the lawsuit. Last May, Judge Zahid Qureshi, a Biden appointee, denied a motion to dismiss, allowing the case to go forward. Conforti versus Hamlin is currently in the discovery phase. Quote, the court recognizes the gravitas of its decision to allow this case to move forward, unquote, Judge Qureshi wrote in the ruling. Quote, however, it is the court's duty and imperative to protect the democratic process, unquote. Rubin views the lawsuit as a final chance for democracy in New Jersey. Quote, all of the things that would enable reform are blocked by a unique set of factors that allows things to stay in place, unquote, she said. Quote, it's why the lawsuit is kind of the only hope. So the question is, how is this race going to be decided? If the lawsuit succeeds, then it's probably the case that Tammy Murphy is going to jump out to a big lead, over Andy Kim. If it doesn't succeed, things might be very different. As for Christina Khalil, who we interviewed, a couple of weeks ago, I have no idea how she is going to overcome this. This county line theme is just very, very insidious. It practically tells the voters how the government wants them to vote. How someone running as an independent can figure things out in this area and get people to vote for them, that's just a tall order. We're talking really big time corruption in New Jersey, I think, soft or not. So let's move on now. Let's move on to the Rashida Tlaib case. Here she is again. We're covering her pretty well these days. She's speaking during a hearing on December 1st, 2021 in Washington, D.C. Oh, that looks like I'm being joined by D. Piers.
Yes, I'm here late, but we had a lot of conversation going on tonight.
Okay. Of Around the World with D and Friends.
Yes.
And we are about to go through the article from Common Dreams. Headline is AOC says $20 million offer to unseat Tlaib exemplifies corruption of our politics. And I think it surely does, but I have to add that the New Jersey case we just discussed also exemplifies corruption of our politics. I mean, how much more corrupt can you get by arranging the ballot so that the chances of somebody winning who gets a particular county line are 98.6%? Now that's that's pretty heavy corruption right there
Yes.
in Jersey. But moving to the case of what APAC is going to try to do to the progressives. AOC says 20 million offer to unseat Tlaib exemplifies corruption of our politics. Hill Harper rejected the offer from the Michigan businessman, saying he wants to break the stranglehold wealthy special interests have on our politics. This article was written by Julia Conley on November 23rd, 2023 for Common Dreams. Recent news out of Michigan, where actor and union organizer Hill Harper is running for U.S. Senate, and Rashida Tlaib has recently angered pro-Israel lawmakers and donors for her staunch support for Palestinian rights, often an illustration of the, quote, corruption, unquote, of the American political system, said one progressive House member late on Wednesday. And that progressive House member, of course, was AOC, as we shall see. As Politico reported, Harper recently rejected $20 million from an anti-Palestinian rights entrepreneur, Lyndon Nelson, who offered the money in exchange for Harper dropping out of his Senate seat and running instead against Tlaib for her House seat. The offer came on October 16th, the day Tlaib joined Representative Cori Bush in introducing a resolution to back an immediate de-escalation and ceasefire in Gaza. The blockaded enclave was then 9 days into a relentless bombardment by Israel, which was launched October 7th in retaliation for Hamas's attack on southern Israel, but had already killed nearly 3,000 Palestinians, including 1,000 children at the time. The death toll has now grown to more than 14,500 people, including 6,000 children. Tlaib, the only Palestinian American member of Congress, has been the subject of vitriol from lawmakers who believe the United States should continue supporting Israel, regardless of what human rights groups and the United Nations have warned may amount to war crimes in Gaza. Earlier this month, 22 Democrats joined Republicans in voting to censure Tlaib for using the rallying cry for Palestinian rights, quote, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," unquote. Pro-Israel Democrats are reportedly searching for a candidate to primary Tlaib. And last month, according to Politico, Nelson reached out to Harper, offering $10 million in bundled donations directly to his campaign and $10 million in independent expenditures if he would agree to be the House candidate instead of continuing his best Senate run. Okay, now this was really clever, of course, because they could maybe knock off Rashida, by running Hill Harper, okay, in this way. If they were successful in getting him to accept the deal. And then also they would clear the way for Alyssa Slotkin, who is extremely pro-Israel and a former CIA agent, who would definitely support whatever the Biden government wants to do, okay, in Israel. So Hill Harper, on the other hand, is not such a sure thing for them in terms of what he would support. So if he was successful in beating Slotkin, which, by the way, I hope he is, then he would come to the Senate, probably as a defender of Palestinian rights, okay, and Rashida would continue her work, okay, in the House, which, by the way, is excellent work. She's an excellent congressperson. Quote, the fact that in the U.S. just one wealthy person can make a call and offer millions to unseat an official they dislike tells you everything about the corruption of our politics, unquote, said Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And she also said, it also tells you why the tiny number of members who have managed to beat them, the beat them being the wealthy people, are seen as such a threat. Would you like something to drink?
I got a drink.
Okay.
I just took some.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Nelson has been involved with the powerful APAC in the past and has donated both to Democratic and Republican lawmakers. APAC told The Hill that it, quote, was absolutely not involved in any way in this matter, unquote. But the other day, APAC said that it was assembling $100 million to beat people like Rashida and AOC and Cori Bush, okay, and Jamal Bowman and Presley, okay, and Ilhan Omar. So they'll be doing pretty much the same thing, okay, as Nelson. And said Nelson has not donated to the organization in over a decade, but considering the group's efforts to defeat other pro-Palestinian rights congresspeople in recent elections, Ocasio-Cortez expressed skepticism. Quote, we're all trying to find the guy who did this, she said. Harper, who is running for Debbie Stabenow's Democratic Michigan seat against the more conservative representative, specifically Alyssa Slotkin, echoed Ocasio-Cortez, saying Nelson's rejected offer exemplifies a, quote, broken political and campaign finance system that's tilted towards the wealthy and powerful, unquote. Quote, I'm running to be a voice for the people, said Harper. I'm not going to run against the only Palestinian American in Congress just because some special interests don't like her. I'm running because I want to break the stranglehold wealthy special interests have on our politics, whether it's the Israel lobby, the NRA, or Big Pharma. Now that sounds like a promising candidate to me. For me, this isn't about one person or one phone call. It's about a broken political and campaign finance system. This is a tweet from Hill Harper that's tilted towards the wealthy and powerful. I'm running for the U.S. because I believe the wealthy and powerful have too much representation in, I'm sure it's going to say in Congress, too much representation in Washington. As long as I clicked on that, I'm going to follow the guy. I'm running to be a voice for the people. I will not be bought or bossed or bullied. I've been fortunate. I've had a successful acting career, and I'm not someone who grew up thinking I wanted to be a politician. I'm not just running for the title. I'm not going to run against the only Palestinian American in Congress just because some special interests don't like her. I'm running because I want to break the stranglehold wealthy special interests have on our politics, whether it's the Israel lobby, the NRA, or Big Pharma. And once again, he seems like a very promising candidate to me to vote for. Harper himself has called for a humanitarian ceasefire, unquote, in Gaza this month, saying in a statement, the quote, the answers to ensure long-term peace and security for Israelis and Palestinians are neither simple nor pain-free, but one truth stands firm. Violence against defenseless children, trapped and frightened, is abhorrent, regardless of who is behind it, unquote. Sourav Ghosh, director for federal reform at the Campaign Legal Center, said to Politico that Harper and Nelson would have broken the law if they had moved forward with the deal. Nelson's offer, said Jewish-led anti-Zionist group, if not now, is, quote, a clear example of how groups like APAC and its super PAC, the Democratic Majority for Israel. I have to correct that. I don't think Democratic Majority for Israel is a super PAC spawned by APAC. The APAC super PAC is the United Democracy Project, okay, the UDP. I think the Democratic Majority for Israel is a group that's often allied, okay, with APAC, but I think it was founded by uh, the main stockholder of LinkedIn. Okay, so he made a few $1 billion, okay, on LinkedIn, and now he's active in politics, okay, with the DMFI. As you may know, that group did much to defeat Adnina Turner in her 2 runs for Congress. It's a clear example of how groups like APAC try to undermine the will of voters and attack representatives who truly represent uh, um, our values. So, that is quite interesting for all the corruption that's running around here. The APAC corruption, the DMFI corruption, the Lyndon Nelson corruption, and it's also notable because somebody resisted, okay, the corruption instead of going along with it, okay, and is running against it, and that, okay, is very, very hopeful. Now, I don't have any financial data on Hill Harper yet. I don't know what he's taking, any big money for his run, but I will certainly find out. So now we come to another example of corruption, but it's in a different area this time. It's also corrupt. It's in the suppression area. Here is the story. It comes from Common Dreams. Okay, let me put it up. Honey, I think it's time for my pills. So I will share the screen. And the headline is, The Nation publishes Gaza genocide article that was killed by the Harvard Law Review. Quote, Palestine brings to legal analysis an unmasking force. It unveils and reminds us of the ongoing colonial condition that underpins Western legal institutions. It says Rabia Egbaria, I think that's how you pronounce her name. This one is by Jessica Corbett. Thanks, honey. November 23rd, 2023. If you'll excuse me for a second. Nation this week. published a piece about Israel's genocidal war on the Gaza Strip that the Harvard Law Review commissioned from a Palestinian scholar. Okay, when you commission an article, what you do is, generally speaking, I don't know if it was done in this case, but generally speaking, you actually pay a scholar to write the article. Anyway, after commissioning it, they then refused to run it after several days of internal debate, a nearly 6-hour meeting, and a board review, and a board vote. The essay, quote, "The Ongoing Nakba Towards a Legal Framework for Palestine," unquote, which was written by Rabia Egbaria, the human rights attorney and doctoral candidate at Harvard Law School, begins, quote, "Genocide is a crime. It is a legal framework. It is unfolding in Gaza. And yet the inertia of legal academia, especially in the United States, has been chilling," unquote. So then the board, of the law review, then proceeded to validate those first two statements. The controversy over Egbaria's own piece helps prove his point. In an email to Egbaria and Harvard Law Review president, whose name is Sarah Ear, online chair Tasha Shariari Parsa, one of the editors who commissioned the blog article, called the bid to kill it and, quote, "unprecedented decision," unquote, by the academic journal's leadership. The Intercept reported on that email and others from those involved. Quote, "As online chairs, we have always had full discretion to solicit pieces for publication," unquote. Shariari Parsa wrote, informing Egbaria that his piece would not be published despite following the agreed-upon procedure for blog essays. Shariari Parsa wrote that concerns had arisen about staffers being offended or harassed, but, quote, "a deliberate decision to censor your voice out of fear of backlash would be contrary to the values of academic freedom and uplifting marginal voices in legal academia that our institution stands for," unquote. Both Shariari Parsa and the other top-line editor, Sabrina, I guess her last name, is Ochoa, told The Intercept that they had never seen a piece face this level of scrutiny at the law review. And Shariari Parsa could find no previous examples of other pieces pulled from publication after going through the standard editorial process. In a statement, the Harvard Law Review said that it, quote, "has rigorous editorial processes governing how it solicits, how it evaluates, and determines when and whether to publish a piece. An intrinsic feature of these internal processes is the confidentiality of 104 editors' perspectives and their deliberations. Last week, the full body met and deliberated over whether to publish a particular blog piece that had been solicited by 2 editors. A substantial majority voted not to proceed with publication," unquote. According to The Nation, 63% of editors who participated in the anonymous vote opposed the publication. And Siddharth tweeted, translation, "Harvard Law Review editors voted to keep their jobs at the cost of ignoring the genocide in Gaza. And that was a tweet that quote tweeted The Intercept Harvard Law Review editors vote to kill article about genocide in Gaza. Uh, Quote, at a time when the Law Review was facing a public intimidation harassment campaign, the journal's leadership intervened to stop the publication. Unquote. Um, um, Dee, did you want to say something?
No, that's fine.
25 editors said in a statement shared with the Nation and The Intercept, quote, the body of editors, none of whom are Palestinian, voted to sustain that decision. Quote, we're unaware of any other solicited piece that has been revoked by the Law Review in this way. Quote, they added, this unprecedented decision threatens academic freedom and perpetuates the suppression of Palestinian voices. We dissent. Egbaria wrote in an email to an editor, quote, this is discrimination. Let's not dance around it. This is also outright censorship. It is dangerous, okay, and alarming, unquote. It is also part of a broader trend identified by more than 1,700 lawyers and law students in a letter to the American Bar Association last week. They noted increasing instances of discrimination and censorship faced by Palestinian, Muslim, Arab, South Asian, Black, Indigenous, immigrant, and other communities within law schools, by universities, law firms, and other corporate entities, particularly due to their expression of support for the Palestinian people. And Shailja Patel tweeted, the lengths to which elite Western institutions will go to stop Palestinian perspectives reaching the public is deranged. And I think I have to agree with that. Since Israel declared war in response to a Hamas-led attack on October 7th, genocide experts around the world have used the term to describe Israeli airstrikes and raids that have killed more than 14,500 Palestinians in Gaza, among them over 6,000 children, and destroyed infrastructure, including residential, educational, medical, and religious buildings. Some may claim that the invocation of genocide, especially in Gaza, is fraught. But does one have to wait for genocide to be successfully completed to name it? This logic contributes to the politics of denial, unquote, Egbaria wrote, okay, in his essay. And I have to say that I find that last statement to be very persuasive. I was looking at something else today. It was an interview by Judge Napolitano of the very well-known and generally very sensible realist international scholar, John J. Mearsheimer, who is known for his unflinching grasp of real conditions in war and international relations. What John had to say in that interview was basically that we cannot use the term genocide yet, okay, because we cannot accurately read the intent of the government. He said that it's certainly the intent of some people inside the government, and certainly the intent, okay, of many Israelis outside of the government, to go through with, a genocide. But he said, even though the attacks are genocidal in character, uh, it is not yet, a genocide. And of course, from his point of view, uh, he wants to tell us that it's up to us to stop a genocide, that the Israelis are definitely on a slippery slope towards that, and that the international community has to rise to stop that. But still, this point, is a very good one. Does one have to wait for a genocide to be successfully completed, to name it? And my intuition on this is, of course not. After pointing to both statements from Israeli politicians and the forming consensus among genocide scholars, he stressed that, quote, genocide is the material reality of Palestinians in Gaza, an entrapped, displaced, starved, water-deprived population of 2.3 million, facing massive bombardments and a carnage in one of the most densely populated areas in the world, unquote. And yet, leading law schools and legal scholars in the United States still fashion their silence as impartiality and their denial, as basically nuance. Is genocide really the crime of all crimes if it is committed by Western allies against non-Western people, unquote? And quote again, this is the most important question that Palestine continues to pose to the international legal order. Palestine brings to legal analysis an unmasking force. It unveils and reminds us of the ongoing colonial condition that underpins Western legal institutions, unquote. Zachary Foster says, the vote to prevent the publication of an article about genocide in Gaza was quote, an unprecedented decision by the leadership of the Law Review. This excellent piece will now get a much wider readership than it would have otherwise. Thanks for your good work at Harv L. Rev, which is the Twitter handle of the Law Review at Harvard. Agbaria also explained the term Nakba, or quote, catastrophe, unquote, which is used to describe the ethnic cleansing of over 750,000 Palestinians during the creation of the modern state of Israel in the 1940s, and argued that, quote, the Nakba is ongoing. Quote, the Nakba is both the material reality and the epistemic framework to understand the crimes committed against the Palestinian people, unquote. He wrote, and by the way, there was an attack on a West Bank attack with respect to Jenin, today. It was, of course, completely unprovoked. Quote, and these crimes, encapsulated in the framework of Nakba, are the result of the political ideology of Zionism, an ideology that originated in late 19th century Europe in response to the notions of nationalism, colonialism, and anti-Semitism, unquote. And quote again, we must imagine that one day there will be a recognized crime of committing a Nakba. I think there is a recognized crime of ethnic cleansing, and a disapprobation of Zionism as an ideology based on racial elimination. The road to get there remains long and challenging, but we do not have the privilege to relinquish any legal tools available to name the crimes against the Palestinian people in the present and attempt to stop them, unquote, he concluded. Quote, a denial of the genocide in Gaza is rooted in the denial of the Nakba, and both must end right now. Okay, now. Um, unquote. So that's a very explicit, I think, very fine article, and the underlying paper on which it's based seems also to be a very fine paper. Once again, the article was published by The Nation. The Nation this week published a piece about Israel's genocidal war on the Gaza Strip. And I will place the link to the Nation article. I will place that into the comments here. So you can follow up on that, okay, if you want to. So, any comments you want to make, Dee, at this point?
No, I was just watching. Also, while I was listening to you, they showed people being released, the hostages being released, and you're seeing the Israelis and them smiling and saying goodbye to the Hamas captives, waving their hands and thumbs up and all kinds of stuff. They're just, you could
Oh,
see that
so
they had a bond.
so the Israeli captives were friendly to the Hamas captors.
Yes. And they're all like saying goodbye to each other, waving and thumbs up and all kinds of stuff like that. You can see that, the kids were all happy and everybody was happy and, that they obviously everybody got along. They just kept them there, but they treated them, as friends. Like you
Yeah, they
know them,
treated
and there
them
was a
well.
friendship built. Yes.
There were some previous reports they were treating the captives very well.
Yes.
Okay, as well. So I was kind of expecting that, but I'm happy to see that it's happening and that it's plain. So, the comments from Andy Candy. Hiya, Joe. Bonnie listening in. Glad to be here. But like always, the twins are still up, so I'll be on the sideline.
Yeah.
Sorry, I meant to write Joe and Bonnie. And that's all right, Andy. That's fine. Steve Wolfbrand said, hello, everybody. Steve says, hey, Andy. Steve says, hey, Doc. Pavis Agwan is running for Congress in the Houston area, swears he's not taking a cent of big donations and is pro-Palestine. Please investigate. It sounds promising. Thank you, Steve. I will investigate. And Steve says that he thinks his first name is actually Purvis, I think is the name. Okay. I will take that under advisement, Steve. Thank you for telling me about him. Steve leaves 5 hearts. He says hello and then he leaves 5 hearts. Thank you, Steve. Dee says hello, everyone. He says the name is Pervez, Doc. Yeah, I suspected that because that's a Pakistani name. I sent you the DM on this guy. Maybe a candidate to pass the dump the corruption test. Thank you, Steve. That would be wonderful to find a candidate who passes the dump the corruption test. Okay, says, hi, Steve. I guess I missed a lot tonight. Okay, says, hi, D. Hi, K. And K says, been watching CNN covering the mess in Gaza. Steve says, AOC doing better lately. Yeah, now that Nancy Pelosi's gone, she's doing better. Steve says, smash the like button. Well, Nancy Pelosi's not gone, but of course, she doesn't have the same authority anymore. Kay says, already did, Steve. Andy says, Harvard is in league with the Federalist Society, isn't it? Who are placing Christo-fascist judges on SCOTUS. I don't think Harvard is in league with them, Andy. Okay, I think that in this case, that Harvard is much more in league with Israeli sympathizers and is probably just simply afraid of getting charged. The usual labeling, okay, of anti Semitism. If somebody publishes anything that appears to be pro Palestinian, but it's really not even a question, okay, of pro Palestinian. Okay, it's a matter of people just trying to be fair, just trying to tell the truth, okay, as they see the truth. Uh, Steve Wolfbrand says, go to Beauty and the Boomer show after this fab. I've heard about that show, but that's probably okay, on regular TV. And we are completely off of regular TV.
Well, actually, Beauty and the Boomer, that's on YouTube.
Oh, is it on YouTube?
Yes. I haven't watched it in a while, but I'm going to watch Uncle Warren tonight at his midnight what is it? The special show.
Oh, he has a special show tonight.
Yeah, he always has it. The Secret Show, he calls it. I always get it mixed up. The Secret Show, and it's 12 p.m. Eastern time. And Jimmy Sunderland is usually on as well. And
Oh,
they just joke around and stuff. So it's just a lot of fun.
okay. Good. Okay, that's I'm sure more productive than the Beauty and the Boomer show. Okay, but maybe not. I just have.
Yeah, people have their own thing.
I just have my own prejudices.
Yeah, Secret Show is good, as Steve says. Yeah, I like Uncle Warren. He's a good guy.
Yeah, I like Uncle Warren too. If you'll forgive me a pun, he seems to be a dear man.
Yes. That's funny.
Anyway, thank you everybody for coming. I think that is it for tonight.
Please hit the like button, subscribe, and share.
Oh, thank you very much, Dee. And please buy me a coffee and buy Dee a coffee. Okay, and again, Dee, you're buying me a coffee.
Is one word, D Piers at the end. Buy me a coffee, D Piers.
Okay, in other words, the end it's / D Piers. Okay, single word.
Yeah.
Okay, and please go to my Patreon account from time to time also.
And I have a Cash App that says Dolores Pierce too.
Okay, what's your Cash App again?
It's just Dolores Pierce, DOLORES, and then Pierce, PEERS.
Okay, thank you, Dolores.
Oh,
Kay,
you're welcome.
Kay says, I'm going to bed. Love you all.
Love you too, Kay.
And we love you too, Kay. And we're so glad that you found a place.
Yes.
So, Steve says the videos of the dead Palestinian children, Kay, are overwhelming me.
Oh,
Yeah.
they are.
Oh, they are.
Yes.
They are just overwhelming. It's just impossible to avoid. Okay, and when you consider how many, well, in a sense, it really doesn't matter how many. When you see dead children produced, by indiscriminate bombing, that is an atrocity. It is a human rights crime. Okay, it is a war crime. It is just intolerable.
And you see the children that did survive with lost limbs. Oh, it's just so horrible.
Yes, and severe burns and all the rest. It's just awful. So on that note, remember, dump the corruption. I know the Harvard case was not a strict case, okay, of dump the corruption because it's not about dumping Congress people, okay, or dumping candidates for the presidency, but trust me when I say, if we rise up and we clean the Congress out and we clean the executive branch out, then Harvard would not be so ready to discriminate, okay, against the Palestinian
Exactly.
because the power, okay, of APAC and the power of those donations would be gone from our political system. And Harvard would act in the way that it is supposed to act and the way that has acted in the past. So, on that note, good night.
Yes. Good night and good night, Bonnie.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night. All righty. Thank you and good night.